Ma'am, you need to move along now. Other customers are waiting, the store manager says, as 82-year-old Frank Morrison struggles to count out exact change with his trembling arthritic hands. The crowded grocery line behind him grows restless. Someone mutters about old people holding everyone up. Frank's weathered fingers brush against the small bronze star pin hidden beneath his worn cardigan. A reminder of the day he carried 3 wounded Marines to safety under enemy fire in Korea 70 years ago. What happens next will leave you speechless. If stories like Frank's remind you why we must never forget our heroes, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments about a veteran who changed your life. Let's honor them together. Frank had been shopping at Miller's Grocery for 50 years, ever since his wife passed. Today felt different though. His hands shook more than usual, making it hard to grip the coins. The medicine for his Parkinson's was expensive, leaving him counting every penny for groceries. The manager, a thin man in his 30s named Derek, tapped his foot impatiently. Behind Frank, the line stretched back, 6 people deep. A woman in yoga clothes checked her phone and sighed loudly. A man in a business suit muttered something about senior discounts being a waste of time. Sir, I really need you to hurry this up, Derek said, his voice getting louder. Frank's hands trembled as he dropped a quarter. It rolled across the floor, and he bent down slowly to pick it up. His knees creaked, his back ached. Come on, old man, the business suit guy said. Some of us have real jobs to get to. Frank straightened up, his face red with embarrassment. He had been a Marine sergeant, led men into battle, saved lives under fire. But right now, he felt smaller than he ever had in his 82 years. Look, Derek said, stepping closer. Maybe you should try shopping when it's less busy. Like early morning, when there's no one here. The yoga woman laughed. Yeah, like senior hour at the community center. Frank's chest tightened. He remembered the last time someone had laughed at him like that. It was in a Seoul hospital in 1952. A young nurse had giggled when she saw his dirty uniform, not knowing he had just spent 3 days crawling through enemy territory to rescue wounded soldiers. I'm sorry, Frank whispered, his voice barely audible. I just need another minute. A minute we don't have, Derek snapped. He walked around the counter and stood next to Frank. Listen, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside and let the next customer go ahead. The people in line started nodding. The business suit man pushed forward. Finally, someone with common sense. Frank felt his heart racing. His breathing became shallow. The store felt too warm, too crowded, too loud. He looked down at his shaking hands holding the small pile of coins and crumpled dollar bills. Maybe I should just leave, Frank said quietly. That might be best. Derek replied coldly. You can come back when you have your money ready. The woman behind him in yoga clothes pulled out her phone and started recording. This is hilarious, she said to her friend. Old guy can't even count his money. Frank turned toward the door, his groceries still sitting on the counter, a loaf of bread, some soup cans, and a small container of ice cream he had planned to eat while watching the evening news. Simple things that suddenly felt impossible to buy. But as he took his first step toward the exit, something inside him stirred. It was the same feeling he had felt on a frozen hillside in Korea when his commanding officer had been shot and Frank had to take charge of 12 scared young Marines. He stopped walking. Frank turned back around and looked directly at Derek. His voice was still quiet, but there was something different in it now, something steady and strong. I served this country for 22 years, Frank said. I fought in Korea and Vietnam. I've seen things that would give you nightmares for the rest of your life. Derek rolled his eyes. Yeah, and I'm sure you walked uphill both ways to school too. The crowd started laughing again, but Frank kept talking. In 1952, I carried Private Danny Chen on my back for 2 miles through enemy fire after his legs were blown off by a landmine. He was 19 years old, same age as my grandson is now. The laughter died down a little. Frank's voice grew stronger. 3 months later, I went back into a burning bunker to pull out Corporal Mike Rodriguez and Sergeant Bill Thompson. The roof was collapsing. The smoke was so thick I couldn't see my own hands. But I went back because that's what Marines do. We don't leave anyone behind. Derek shifted uncomfortably. The business suit man put his phone away. Frank reached into his cardigan and pulled out a small bronze medal with a red, white, and blue ribbon. He held it up so everyone could see. They gave me this for those rescues, but I didn't do it for a medal. I did it because those boys had families back home who were counting on them to come back alive. The store had gone completely quiet now. Even the checkout beeping from other registers seemed to fade away. Frank looked around at all the faces staring at him. Young and old, men and women, all of them suddenly seeing him differently than they had just minutes before. "I'm not asking for special treatment," Frank continued. "I'm just asking for the same respect you'd show any other customer. The same respect you'd want someone to show your grandfather." Derek's face had turned red. He looked down at his shoes, then back up at Frank. "I came home from Vietnam in 1969, Frank said. "People spit on my uniform at the airport, called me a baby killer. I thought those days were over. I thought my country had learned to treat its veterans better." The yoga woman had stopped recording. She was staring at Frank with tears in her eyes. "Ever come to this store and spend what little money I have left after paying for my heart medication and my Parkinson's pills. I've never caused any trouble. I've never complained when prices go up or when you're out of something I need." Frank's voice cracked slightly, but he kept going. "All I wanted today was to buy some groceries and go home to eat dinner while watching the news. Simple things that most people take for granted. But apparently, that's too much to ask for when you're old and your hands shake and you move a little slower than everyone else wants you to." The silence in the store was overwhelming now. Frank looked at Derek one more time. "I've spent my whole life serving others. In the military, in my job as a school janitor for 30 years after I got out, and as a volunteer at the VA hospital on weekends. I never asked for anything in return except to be treated like a human being." Frank put the bronze star back in his pocket and walked toward his groceries on the counter. "Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to finish paying for my food so I can go home." Derek stood there for a long moment, his mouth opening and closing like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Finally, he stepped back behind the register. "Sir," Derek said quietly, "there's no charge for your groceries today, and I want to apologize for how I treated you." Frank shook his head. "I don't want charity. I want to pay for what I bought, just like everyone else." "It's not charity," Derek replied. "It's respect. Something I should have shown you from the beginning." The business suit man stepped forward. He pulled out his wallet and handed Derek a $50 bill. "This covers his groceries and mine too," he said to Derek. Then he turned to Frank. "Thank you for your service, sir. I'm sorry for what I said earlier." One by one, other customers began stepping forward. The yoga woman put her hand on Frank's shoulder and whispered an apology. An elderly woman in the back of the line wiped tears from her eyes and nodded respectfully at Frank. As Frank walked toward the exit with his groceries, Derek called out to him, "Sir, you're always welcome here, and from now on, you can shop whenever is convenient for you. No rush, no pressure." Frank turned back one final time. His eyes were wet, but his voice was strong. "All I ever wanted was to be treated with dignity. Thank you for giving that back to me today." As Frank pushed through the glass doors into the afternoon sunlight, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Pride, not just in his military service, but in standing up for himself when it mattered most. Behind him, the store remained quiet as customers and employees reflected on what they had just witnessed. A reminder that heroes don't always wear uniforms, and sometimes the most important battles are fought not with weapons, but with words, courage, and the simple demand to be treated as a human being deserving of respect.